Hello and welcome. Amy Scruggs here. It is my favorite time of the week. It is the EXP Nashville update with my favorite team, the Burnett team, Matt and Marty Burnett. Always great to see you guys. And you have a fantastic guest today. So I want to jump right in with that. Welcome, Todd Sholar, attorney. And we're going to talk about law in pertains to your real estate and some of the things you need to look out for. Welcome, everybody.
Hey. Thanks for having us.
Good morning.
Well, Marty, I'm going to let you tee this up for us.
Yeah. Well, in real estate, and it's funny, people buying and selling houses, and it's a crazy market out there. And Todd laughs because I probably give him a call once a week, and I'm like, please don't fire me, because I always have some random crazy law question like how does this affect? So I don't think people really realize, and some people may and some people don't, but I think they don't realize the severity of signing a legal binding contract. A real estate contract is a legal binding contract. So I think it is important for people to know, what they're legally agreeing to and what some of that looks like. So education is always fun, and I love to bug Todd and with some totally random, crazy stuff and trying to stump him. So super excited to hear it.
That's what makes my life interesting.
He sees Marty Burnett on his phone and goes, delete.
Well, we definitely keep it interesting with what happens now. Like, oh gosh.
I take a deep breath when I see really any call coming in from a realtor, because I'm like, oh God, this is going to be interesting. So my life otherwise is fairly mundane, but that's what keeps it interesting. So,
well, talk to us about that, Todd. What are the calls that you're getting from realtors? Let's discuss some of these talking points.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many. Like Marty said, the market is just still insane. Before I came on, I was looking at something from NAR talking about, what the rates are going to be doing over the next year. And NAR still anticipates low rates for 2021, somewhere in the 3 range. Nationally, there's 4 offers for every house sold. And so lots of multiple offers. Of late, I've been getting lots of calls and inquiries about escalation clauses, which Marty can explain that too. But basically, an escalation clause is one where somebody places an offer on a property and it's so competitive with multiple offers that they put in a provision that sort of escalates their offer to a higher number, dependent upon what the other offers have and contained in those. And so we see all sorts of those. We see good ones and bad ones. And so that's been a real hot issue of late. So.
Yeah, the escalation clauses are kind of crazy. And I'll be honest, I have used them before with buyers, but I tell my sellers don't entertain them. Like, tell everybody come with the highest and best, because what happens when you have one that escalates another? And let's say you got 3 escalation clauses. I mean, who escalates who? Where does it stop? So what is your kind of recommendation on that, Todd? I mean, legally, what does that look like?
Well, it's one of those things that I realize they're out there. I realize people use them. And in some cases, they benefit their client. And okay, that's fine. But my personal take on it is that a seller doesn't have to play that game. If they receive an offer in that has an escalation clause, they don't necessarily have to play along. The seller is the one that's in control on how you handle these things. And that's part of why you want a really good realtor, frankly, is because you want somebody that can give you, consultation about how to handle multiple offers. Because if you come in, if you're a house from, 200,000 up to $500,000, 750 in this area, you're going to have multiple offers. And so you need a listing agent who can coach you on how to deal with these things, because it gets pretty crazy. I mean, you hit the market, there's 20 offers. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm. And it's not always about the best price either. I mean, there's lots of things that are in those offers that make one better than the other, even if they're priced exactly the same.
Well, we ran into that. Yeah, we ran into that yesterday. I had 17 offers on a house.
I saw that.
17, y'all. I'm not kidding you. Look.
Well, and what Matt said is really important. People get so hung up. They get so hung up on the number, on the price, that you lose sight of the big picture. It doesn't matter what it sells for if it's not going to appraise anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So part of being, when you hire a realtor, you want to hire a consultant. You're not, the one thing I tell people if they call me about or for sale by owner or something like that is, look, hire a realtor, because I don't do what realtors do. I don't have time to handhold somebody and help them negotiate things. That's not what I do. They need a realtor, and don't just hire somebody because they're your buddy, or that they're a family member. Look, we all have family, we all love them, but you're hiring a consultant. You need
Right.
somebody who knows what they're doing, who's very familiar with these documents. Tennessee has standardized forms, and you want a realtor who understands those forms, because man, it makes all the difference in a successful transaction or a non-successful transaction. So
it's funny you should bring up appraisals. Let me ask you a legal question on that. We're having people now say, I'll pay $10,000 over appraised value up to my asking price. So now it's not just trying to win out the sales price, but to win out who's going to give the most over appraisals. And then I have some people that are getting financing that are waiving the appraisal, saying, I'll pay the difference. Talk to people about a little bit about the risk in that,
Wow.
Todd, legally.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're agreeing on the front end to sometimes a very much an unknown, right? You don't know what the appraisal is going to come back at. And that, again, is part of the evaluation on, is this really a legitimate offer? And the contract is, like you said earlier, is so important. I think sometimes people miss out on the fact that you're signing a legally binding document. And these days, I sound like an old man now, but kids these days, they don't. Sometimes they just think it's optional, to follow the terms of a contract. And that's not how I was raised, and it's not the law. So no, you have to understand that the appraisal is going to drive the loan process. And if you agree to this on the front end, you've put up earnest money in a lot of cases, you're very likely going to lose it if all of a sudden you can't perform. And that's the other thing, I guess I should say, is you lose earnest money. That's one possible thing, but that's not the only possible thing. You can be sued. So you have to go into.
That's what people don't realize, is that if they don't perform, they think, I got $1,500 up, I'm willing to lose that. But they don't realize that there's this underlying factor of the person can sue you for damages and different things. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
So I think people don't understand the legal ramification of that. What I'm trying to think of a good question. Like, what's one of the most common calls that you get as far as like questions, attorney questions for real estate confrontation, I guess I'll call it, or disagreements?
I'll tell you, one thing that, well, gosh, it's across the board, but on the front end, we get lots of calls from listing agents where it's kind of an unusual situation. We had one the other day where there's one of the owners has disappeared. Nobody knows where the owner is.
Oh, gosh.
It's a co-tenant situation. And so how are you going to deal with that? The one wants to sell it. The one's gone AWOL. We get calls about that. We get a lot of calls about estates. And I don't know, again, maybe it's because I'm old now, but I get lots of estate files where, we're having to figure out on the front end how long it's going to take to close, what's going to happen to the proceeds. And realtors are the ones usually who are sort of setting those expectations for their client. And so the really good realtors, in my opinion, on the front end, that's one of the things realtors do, is they help you identify potential issues. You don't say, well, I inherited the property, and a good realtor will go, wait a second, let's talk about that. Let's get some information, because it doesn't necessarily mean they can't sell the house, but there are additional steps perhaps. And so a really good realtor helps you identify those steps and get you to somebody, a title person, to deal with that on the front end. And it avoids delays and things like that really impact people. So
Todd, I'm so grateful for what you've shared, because we talk about all the time in here about hiring a professional. There's a reason that you go to the professionals, especially when it's about real estate transactions. And you've just hit that on the head, because it's so important. And I love that you guys have pointed out this is a legal contract. It's important. You don't just go about this flippantly. So we really advise everybody to go to the professionals, seek advice. Matt and Marty at the top. If they don't know something, they're going to get somebody in that does, just like you. When is a time that somebody would reach out then if they're, have questions about something? When do you say, hey, that's when you come to me versus reaching out to Matt and Marty?
In a lot of cases, what we get are calls from realtors such as Matt and Marty. I mean, we do get calls from the public, but in many cases, we've worked really hard to sort of develop relationships with the realtor community. So in a lot of cases, the realtor will be talking to a client and it'll be an estate issue. And so I'll get an email saying, hey, you're going to get a phone call from this person. I'm listing their home and they want to run a few things past you to make sure that we're not going to be delayed. And so, early is better. I tell people that we catch things early, we all look like heroes. We can all, we have time to solve the problems and whatnot. But if you don't catch stuff early, that's when it becomes, the closing gets mucked up, for lack of a better way to say it.
Sure.
So yeah, early's always better. You asked me a minute ago about a phone call or phone calls that I usually get. The multiple offer situation, I'm getting more and more calls about that. And one of the things I wanted to mention, I also work with the Board of Realtors, and this month is Fair Housing Month, right? National Fair Housing Month. And in the multiple offer arena, we're seeing some kind of unusual situations where potential buyers are doing virtually anything to set apart their offer from other offers. And probably Marty's received some crazy stuff too, but basically I've seen there was one offer that came in that essentially said, look, I'll buy the seller's, upon acceptance of my contract, I'll buy the seller's pizza and have it delivered and all this other stuff. That was literally in their offer.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
But along with all of that, there are potential issues that are raised. For example, you guys have probably heard, the love letter where you get it from a buyer. A lot of buyers will try to submit a letter to the listing agent, essentially setting out, this is why I love your home. I can see my kids running down the steps, at Christmas time. And we truly have a connection to your house. And while that is nice and sweet, it also presents a fair housing question, right? Because familial status, religious status, all of those things can be indicated by this letter. And so that's another reason you need a great listing agent, is to sort of help, keep your eye on the prize in terms of if you get multiple offers, stick to the objective factors, don't get hung up in the emotional stuff. And again, that's your consultant. They need to come out and they can talk you through that and sort of screen you from that type of thing, because it could be problematic. There could be allegations that you accepted one offer over the other due to somebody's, classification,
that was something I was actually going to ask you about, Todd, in this multiple offer situation. For example, I had 17 offers. Let's say, one of the agents or one of the buyers who didn't get chosen really pressed the issue about why they didn't get chosen, or, what beat them out because they really felt like they had submitted the strongest offer. What is, and you may or may not be able to answer this question, but what is the reality that a buyer or an agent could take it so far as to, obviously what's in the other offers is confidential as far as that goes, but there have been a couple of situations that have come up and I've kind of gone, ooh, I don't know if somebody ever pressed the issue there, what that would look like. It may be a question for another time, but what is the reality? And if somebody really took it?
Well, I think that comes back to, again, having an experienced listing agent that knows the factors to present to a seller. They present the offers objectively. They focus on the numbers, on the likelihood of success of the closing, that sort of thing, and they document all of those things. They document the presentation, so that if there are ever any allegations of, well, you didn't accept mine because I'm a purple person or whatever, you can defeat that. So the odds, document everything. document how you present the offers, what you talked about, and keep your focus on, the offer itself and not the people who made the offer. So
I've just had a couple of things that have come through that I've kind of gone, ooh, I don't know, that offer feels a little uncomfortable the way it was written, or some of the things that were in it. Luckily enough, those have not been the highest nor the best, so we've been able to kind of discard them. But I can see that if they did end up being the best, and the way that they've written some of these things, that could be problematic. And I actually have a question for you later. I won't put you on the spot.
Well,
there. Yeah.
It's incredible information. Yes. And Matt, how is it for you knowing that you have Todd as a resource for your business and all that you guys do, for the amount of clients that you guys take on so many platforms? What is this? How much do you love having this resource?
It's very helpful. And me and Marty will have conversations about something, and it's like, let's call Todd, or let's text Todd or email Todd or whatever. And so that, it clarifies a lot and gives us, sometimes make sure we're pointing our clients down the right track, just to get that up front. So it's very helpful.
Todd, I think that's your new marketing slogan. Let's call Todd. That's your new marketing slogan. Let's call Todd. The bumper stickers are being made now.
Better call Saul, right?
I try not to bug him too much. I'm like, I got a crazy one. Do you have time for that today?
It was incredible information. Such great reminders this week. Using a professional, calling the professionals, really trusting that they're going to guide you on the right direction. Don't do this yourself. There are amazing people out there to help you in these professions. We've got Todd right here. Call Matt and Marty. They can answer your questions. And as you can see, if they don't know something, they're going to call Todd and say, we're going to make sure and get you the best advice. These are legal contracts. Enjoy your home buying process, but please remember to take this seriously and all of the facets that go into it. Thank you so much, all of you, for being with us today.
It was
Thanks,
a pleasure.
Amy.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, guys.